What's going on, everybody? It's Wednesday night. You know what that means? The OG's back here on Grinderslive to talk you through this 10-game NBA slate brought to you by our friends over at Monkey Knife Fight. Make sure you guys head over there and check them out. A lot of fun games over there. Promo code Grinders for a nice 100% deposit bonus. So make sure you take advantage of that. As always, I'm your host, Chris Spearmakers Fan Prince, joined by my boys, Notorious Head Chopper, to break everything down. And boys, we got a lot of news here. We got guys we're trying to pronounce their names before the show. Noto, let's go to you, buddy. We got a lot to get to here, but how you doing tonight?
Yeah, doing good. I think I finished the grind down like 20 minutes ago. So I'm ready to talk some NBA. And Chop was our resident injury expert on the NFL OG pod, and now he's our resident pronunciation expert. So give us all the goods, Chop.
Here we go, Chop. What do we got? Let's give some of these pronunciations. We're talking about guys we never heard of.
Let's take a step back for just a second here. Like I can give you what I call them in the comfort of my own living room, considering I don't really listen to the broadcast very much. So whatever I give you is like it's my pronunciation. It's not really. It's probably not the real deal, but you know, some of these guys, the NBA got guys coming over from France and all the European countries and everything. So it's tough these days. What you think is a Theo could very well be a Teo. So you got to be careful.
Definitely Teo. I was about to call him Theo like Huxtable, but it's Teo Maledon. We're definitely going to be talking about him. Hamidou Diallo. A lot of interesting names here tonight, boys. But chat, we want to talk to you as well. We want this show to be very interactive. So I see a lot of guys out there. I see Coach Priester, Big Chief out there in the chat. I know he'll be helping everybody out. Alex Santi, RG contributor in the chat. Don Yeezy, some familiar names out there. So we want to get you guys involved here. So we'll try to mix in your questions as we go along. At the end, we want some of your favorite betting picks. So get those out and ready as we'll share some of ours, and we'll keep our competition going, us against you guys. So make sure you're looking up some of your favorite bets. But guys, let's start with injuries. So let's look at it. Let's look at the slate in general. We'll break down some of the major injuries here. Chop, let's give the 10,000-foot view here. A lot of games, a lot of injuries, a lot of guys out tonight. So just some of the highlights here before we kind of dive into the positions.
Yeah, it's a weird. Let me pull up some of my injuries here. Yeah, it's been a crazy NBA season. Tonight we are struck with who's out, man. Goodness.
All right, I'll run through them. I wanted to see if you had a quick view. So we'll just hit on some of the major ones.
You might want to give me some prep warning next time before the show, man.
Oh, this is a work in progress. We know that. So we'll figure our way as we go. I think some of the bigger ones, Russell Westbrook, obviously a huge name, going to sit tonight. So he's out here. Boston going to be down some guards. Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, Peyton Pritchard, all out tonight. So they'll be down some guys. Minnesota, Towns remains out. Jarrett Culver's out. D'Angelo Russell questionable. SGA, a big one out for Oklahoma City. Reason we're talking some of these crazy names. George Hill also out, with John Wall out on the other side for Houston. Larry Nance Jr. out. Andre Drummond questionable. DeAndre Hunter out. PJ Washington and Terry Rozier out. No, did I leave anybody out of the mix there?
No, I think you covered all the outs. Got to keep an eye on Andre Drummond and Miles Turner. Pretty much the biggest names that are still questionable.
Yep. So we still have some news that could drop. We'll be bringing in our boy SBK to break things down projection wise. He'll be joining us here in about 10 minutes. So we'll try to get a position knocked out. And again, you guys got questions, try to keep it relevant to what we're talking about. We're going to start with point guards. You got questions there. We'll try to weave them into the analysis here. So no, Teo Maledon. Yes. No. Is he a must play? Can we fade him in tournaments? Let's start there, because I think that's obviously the one people are going to want to know about. A, who is this guy? B, do we have to have him in our lineups tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a ton about him, obviously. But his permanent production looks pretty good. He's going to see a nice usage boost with George Hill, SGA out. Got to think he's going to play minutes in the low 30s. Pretty decent matchup against an up-paced Houston team that's going to be missing John Wall. So if you're building one lineup or if you're playing cash games, I think he's going to be the first guy in it. There are a lot of superstars that I want to pay up for tonight. So he makes a lot of sense. I also think you can look in that same price range to Ish Smith, probably going to carry a little bit lower ownership. He's averaged a fantasy point per minute this season. Tougher matchup for him against the Heat, but no Westbrook, no Raul Neto. So we got to think he's going to play 30 minutes as well. I think if you are saving at the position, those two are the first two I would start with.
Yeah, I don't hate that value there either. I mean, we've seen Ish Smith have some big games throughout the course of his career. So definitely going to get an ownership discount there. Chop, same. Teo Maledon, must play. How you handling it in tournaments? And what other point guards you looking at tonight?
I would say that he's probably a must play in cash. In tournaments, no. Like anytime I see a guy that he's going to be super popular like this, and there's not a super big track record of a guy smashing. I think it was like 2 nights ago, Andre Drummond was out, Larry Nance was out, and all of a sudden we had Jared Allen projected pretty high at a really cheap price. That's a must play even in tournaments because the track record's there, man. This guy could go for 50, and in fact, he went for 60 that night. Maledon, probably not the smash button, in tournaments. I'm not going to hate on you if you do it, but he's not a must-own, no. And as far as some of the other guys at the point guard position, I mean, there's LaMelo Ball out there in Charlotte with the injury tonight is okay. He disappointed big time with this last opportunity, but, he's already played this Philly team twice, and he's absolutely smoked them. And they're supposed to be a good defense, but he smoked them, so he can get it done. De'Aaron Fox, I love De'Aaron Fox tonight out there against Boston, and I'll talk about that game more later. But Boston on the second night of a back-to-back, a little shorthanded. The first thing that probably goes most of the time is the defense. You probably stop playing as tough a defense on the second night like that. So maybe if De'Aaron Fox get loose, but yeah, those are the names I'm looking at.
Yeah, you're going to hear from me on that game as well. I agree 100% there. Lack of guards there. Fox, I think, will kind of go forgotten here. We got 10 games. We got a lot of popular plays at the position. On DraftKings, something you can do, get a little different. You can utilize a guy like Eric Gordon, Victor Oladipo in that point guard spot. If everyone's going to play Maledon, Ish Smith, maybe you go that route. Give yourself a different lineup here. Gordon going to have to provide offense, as will Oladipo with John Wall out. So I don't hate using either of those guys. Noto, can this Emmanuel Quickly character continue his good play? And then who else are you looking at maybe in the higher end of the point guards if you're not going some of those value plays?
Yeah, Quickly's been awesome. I just wish they'd give him the reins. Alfred Payton, he's been my boy over the years, but I'm ready for some more Quickly. Only projected for minutes in the upper 20s, so probably can't get there on tonight's slate. But love the LaMelo Ball call. He did struggle the other night, but he got into early foul trouble. Didn't have a good shooting night. I think he was 3 for 11. It was a pace-down game against Miami. And I believe it was on the road, too. Now he gets a pace-up game at home against Philly, who Chop mentioned. He's already had 2 big games against. So love the spot for LaMelo. After that, I mean, there's just not that many interesting options. DeJounte Murray, I feel like all the Spurs are underpriced tonight. They're missing Aldridge. They're also missing Rudy Gay. Great matchup for them. Minnesota might be the best, game environment for fantasy production on the entire board. So I think DeJounte Murray, he's going to be low owned. He's at least a name I would throw out there other than, the 2 values and LaMelo.
Any interest in Lonzo Ball? Somebody had a question in chat. Alex Walton in chat asked, anyone on both Ball brothers here on FanDuel? So we know LaMelo's in play. Lonzo pretty cheap as well. Derek, any interest in pairing up the Ball brothers tonight?
Yeah, I tried the Ball combo the other night. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to. It was a smaller slate. But, Lonzo's been a little bit better recently. His underlying rates have been pretty good. The minutes are going up. True shooting's going up. Rebounding, assists, pretty much everything's gone up over the last 5 games. So I don't hate it, but probably not a guy I would look to if you're building 1, 2, or 3 lineups.
All right, Hank Reynolds wants to know about Malik Monk. We'll kind of get into he's more of a shooting guard, but any interest there with Terry Rozier out there? Who gets the benefit there? And we'll talk to SBK about that as well. But it's going to obviously open things up for LaMelo. Devontae Graham, does it go deeper? And can we trust Malik Monk again tonight?
I mean, it feels like it was a perfect storm for Malik Monk the other night. It feels like we were chasing points a little bit. Played 40 minutes. Part of that was due to LaMelo getting into foul trouble, and he caught fire. I won't be going there myself. I certainly get it. He's 4K on DraftKings. But I think Devontae Graham's going to be the forgotten guy in that lineup.
Yeah, I'm a big Graham fan, so he's definitely a guy. I don't mind pivoting off of LaMelo and playing some Graham at kind of a discount. Chop, we love our narratives here, so we're going to involve my Milwaukee Bucks. Daryl Hodgins asked, Malcolm Brogdon, revenge game. So any interest in that?
I'm interested in Malcolm Brogdon, not because it's a revenge game. It's just because he's been awesome this year, and in general, the last few years, he's been really good. So, and just generally perusing those two teams, it's two solid offenses. Milwaukee's one of the best offenses in the league. Indiana's not bad, and the pace should be okay. So I like Brogdon. Yeah, I like Brogdon, but not because of the revenge, just because he's just a good player.
All right, we also had another question. Matthew Abrams, Luca or Trey? FanDuel GPP. So on that high end, send this to both of you guys. Any leans on those studs at point guard position, Chop?
Luca or Trey? Boy, I tell you, Luca and the Mavericks have been pretty bad this year, to be honest. The expectations were a lot higher. I don't know what's – and like if he rights the ship tonight and he jumps out for one of those 80-point games, then you just got to eat it. But – he's a pretty good chunk more expensive than Trae Young, and Trae Young's been, if you go game by game with these two guys, Trae Young's been just every bit as good for the most part. So probably lean towards Trae Young over Luka.
All right, and they're asking Chief who that lock button play is in the chat. So Chief, hook him up. Guys, any final thoughts here? Any other point guards you want to discuss? Are we ready to move on to shooting guard?
I think, yeah, I got some shooting guards that kind of doubled as point guards. So I'll talk about them there. But also we got to get to tell the chat, if you guys like a particular spread or total in tonight's NBA action, fire it off in chat. I got my eye on it. I'm keeping track of all of it. And at the end of the show, I'll round up what I think is the best consensus there. And I'll pick your three picks, and we'll post a leaderboard in a little bit. But fire off your bets in the chat if you got some, and I'll keep track of them.
I'm bringing a 6-pack of bets to the table. I'm making up for that week that I missed. So I got 6 of them ready to fire off. So chat, when we see consensus on those picks, that's what we're going to give you. And the chat needs to pick it up a little bit. They're sitting right around 500. So we need some action there in the chat. So keep the questions coming, guys. I'll do my best to keep up with it. No, let's go to you. Let's talk shooting guards real quick. Before we get SBK on, we can come back to it if we need to. But who are you looking at here at shooting guard tonight?
Yeah, another pronunciation we need to get right, Hamidou Diallo. He's been a monster off the bench this season, averaging 1.1 fantasy points per minute, I believe. Just hasn't gotten a ton of run. With Hill out, with SGA out, I think you can certainly look to him. He's only 4.3K on FanDuel, going to be popular. He's pretty cheap over there on DraftKings as well. And I like looking to Lou Dort a little bit. I think he's going to be the guy that gets overlooked a little bit in that lineup, because I think a lot of people will start with Maledon, will start with Diallo. But if you look at the usage rate, he has that 34% usage rate without SGA and Hill on the floor. That's pretty wild for a guy that isn't really known for his offensive skill set. He can rack up the blocks, the steals. The guy I'm paying up for, DeMar DeRozan, just sitting in that mid-range. He's averaging like 40 fantasy points per game, never gets any love from the pricing algorithms. I don't know what he's got to do. Great matchup. He sees a massive boost with Aldridge off the floor. And he's just going to be a guy that fills up the stat sheet. So he's a guy I'm looking to in the 7K range. If you want to pay all the way up, certainly think it makes sense to go to Bradley Beal, averaging 1.61 fantasy points per minute, 40% usage rate without Westbrook this season. So he's going to get the ball up as many times as he can. Whether that game stays competitive or not, I don't know. I'm actually playing the Heat for one of my bets tonight, so we'll get to those later. But, yeah, if they're going to keep it close, it's going to be thanks to Beal.
Yeah, Chop, I was going to ask you about Beal as well. I mean, with no Westbrook, we know he's going to have to do the heavy lifting. A matchup, obviously not great with Miami, but is he the headliner here for you in the high end of shooting guards?
Yeah, he's definitely up there, but he's so expensive already. And the matchup is a lot of the stats are skewed from Miami because of the guys that have been missing this year. And now Jimmy Butler's back. It makes him a tougher team in general. So I'm not like, diving in for Bradley Beal at this price. He's good, not great. Some of the other guys, I love Oladipo, love my Rockets, and I think that they've been feasting on bad teams. Here's another one without SGA tonight. So Oladipo should be really good. And, you guys kind of stole my Emmanuel Quickly thunder at point guard. But, man, listen, this kid, shout out to Jared Barton. He goes by V1 on Twitter and an RG. I call him Theon. but it's the one. He was the first guy to tip me off to Quickly. He's a New York Knicks fan. Quickly's really good. He's got that little floater down, man. He kind of like almost like a little Tony Parker-ish game to him, Tony Parker-like game. So, yeah, give me some Quickly. And you mentioned Hamidou. Hamidou is good. Derek kind of, he kind of poo-pooed Malik Monk a little bit there. But, we still got the injuries. The only thing about Monk is, I forget who it was the other night that said something on the NBA show on the Real TV. They said they know what it's like when a team starts to feature you to trade you. Like all of a sudden you get this extra bump in usage because they're looking to move you and they want to show it off. And that might be maybe what we're in with Malik Monk here. Let's try to move Malik Monk. So let's, do our best to show him off. Here's 40 minutes and we'll give you some bunch of usage tonight again and see if so. Like I'm not running out, I could definitely see a dud, but I wouldn't be shocked if he comes through with another big performance just based on volume. So, yeah, those are the guys I'm looking at.
Chop, I got to ask you something. Did you just say that on the real TV? So are we like on the fake TV here? Or?
Well, there's a difference between that TV I watch in my living room and then these guys that pop up on this internet. I don't even know what is. We're a web show, aren't we? We're not a TV show.
That's Devin's department. I'm assuming web show. But Devin, let me know when SBK is in the house. Otherwise, we'll continue on here. Guys, Joe Wheeler in the chat asks, can we play Lonnie Walker as a pivot to Hamidou Diallo? And again, you want to get away from some of that ownership. Is Lonnie Walker a guy that fits the bill, Derek?
I mean, he's had some big games. If you're playing tournaments, I certainly don't mind it. Going to be a lot lower owned than Malik Monk. So I don't mind it. I do like Diallo more than both of them. That's for sure. I'm glad Chop brought up Oladipo, one of my favorite plays as well. I kind of forgot about him in that mid-range. I think him and DeMar are kind of going to be my two guys that I play the most as shooting guard. And then we didn't talk about Eric Gordon. I hate Eric Gordon nights when he gets big minutes. I never know what to do when I play him. He plays 35 minutes, goes 0 for 11. Gives me 6 fantasy points. When I don't, he goes nuts. Are you guys playing any Victor Oladipo or any Eric Gordon?
Well, I guess we need to ask you, because if you're playing him, he's not going to do well. I don't want to play him. If you're not going to play him and he does well, then I want to play him. So are you playing Eric Gordon tonight? That's the question.
I was, and now I don't think I am. So
all right.
Who knows? There's so many injuries. I might have a completely different team in 10 minutes.
All right. Is he calling in on Dean's house phone? SBK?
What's going on, boys?
How we doing, man? Obviously, another big night of games here. 10 games on the docket, a ton of injuries. So hit on some of the highlights. Obviously, Russell Westbrook, Boston being down some guards. So some of the big ones, Oklahoma City, we're getting a lot of questions on those guys. So what are the projections looking like with some of these injuries we're dealing with tonight?
Yeah, so we just I'll kind of just go through a couple situations. So we just got word that Terry Rozier is ruled out, so we will see LaMelo Ball as a starter. Miles Bridges will also start with PJ Washington out. So Charlotte's bench is pretty thin, but in terms of the starters, there's a handful of good places to look here for DFS purposes. Gordon Hayward in a fantastic spot. LaMelo obviously in a great spot. Cody Zeller still playing a bunch, still pretty cheap. I don't know if we'll be able to handle Embiid, but he'll be the guy that I think gets that assignment. We'll probably see some Bismack too, just given that they'll have to play a true center. Outside of that, Washington is another big one with no Westbrook. He's obviously resting on back-to-back. There's a lot of usage to go around here with Westbrook off. Bradley Beal picks up a ton of it. He's projected for over 52 fantasy points right now. So obviously makes for one of the better, high-end plays on the slate. Rui Hachimura, Ish Smith are two guys. Garrison Mathews, another one who pick up a notable level of production with Westbrook off the floor. I mean, Westbrook just from so many angles, whether it's rebounding, assists, usage, just takes so much away from other players that when he's out, obviously a lot of it kind of has to fall back in here. And those three guys, Ish Smith, I think might be my favorite of that bunch, but all three of those guys have some appeal. OKC, obviously a huge one with no Shai, also no George Hill. So, they really have very little depth at guard and really very little that we can count on or have seen these guys produce in the past. Theo Maledon in a fantastic spot in terms of, minutes in production. He'll start. We have him projected for 32 minutes, 4.3K on DraftKings. So at about a 28-minute projection, it's pretty solid. Hamidou Diallo, also another candidate to see more run. He's, a guy who has been performing at like a very high clip per minute wise. So definitely have some interest in him as well. Curious to see if Al Horford can keep it going. He's been, over his last 3 games, has been awesome. And especially with, a lack of playmakers at guard, more could fall on his shoulders. And I guess the last big one is Boston with no Kemba, no Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown dominating the usage. I was kind of surprised even how much they dominated when I was running queries last night to do these initial projections. Both these guys were just like popping off the page, and I even had to kind of bring them down a little bit just in fear that they would just have kind of egregious projections. But numbers on them both pretty healthy. Jeff Teague, a guy who might start, pick up a couple extra minutes, but just probably not enough time to make him a suitable DFS target. So on that Boston side, so much of it is condensed between Brown and Tatum.
Yep, no doubt. All right, Noto, what do you got for SPK tonight?
Only question, Andre Drummond, any lean towards whether he's playing or not? And if he's out, can we go back to Jared Allen? A lot more expensive than he was the other night.
I do still think Allen will be in play. You're obviously right about the price. I have a feeling that he'll sit. I don't think he wants to be in Cleveland. I don't know that they necessarily want to hold on to him for very long either. So, I think part of him sitting is just the factor of them trying to figure out a way to get him out of there. So they obviously probably want to see what they have in Allen as well. So I'm kind of leaning toward him sitting at this point, and then that would, lead Allen to 30 plus minutes playing time, make him pretty appealing. So yeah, just given the per minute upside, he's still got definitely a path to success at this price if Drummond's out.
All right, I want to work the chat in here, then we'll get to Chop, see if he's got any questions for you. But Angry Vic had a lineup HQ question. So it says it keeps jamming in Justin Jackson as a 3K option. So do we love Justin Jackson? And he's asking in DraftKings GPP format.
No, we don't love Justin Jackson, but he really hasn't been bad in terms of a per minute upside relative to like where he was in Dallas. He was just, a terrible per minute producer there. But there's really not, there's just not much talent here in OKC. And if he plays 24, 26 minutes, we believe in projected for 26 right now, he's minimum price. So, if you're okay with 20, 22 fantasy points, kind of, if you get that, you should be pretty happy. So, I think you just need to know what you're getting going in. Don't expect, 30 plus from him, but as a, last guy in there, kind of a pump play if you feel good about everything else. I don't hate that.
Chop, floor is yours, brother.
All right. First, Angry Vic, I like to address him. Angry, listen, the Optos are always going to jam in a 20.3K guy with the studs. They always want the stars and scrubs. So if you don't like Justin Jackson and nothing jumps out, you should bump his projection down and get rid of it in lineup HQ. But I got just one quick question for SBK on the Boston side. I'm kind of looking at the Jeff Teague projection like, man, why is it so low? There's no Smart, there's no Kemba Walker. What about Peyton Pritchard? Is he going to be out tonight? And if so, if it's 50-50 or whatever, can we project Jeff Teague for any more than what we got him at right now?
It's kind of tough. By the way, I think you very eloquently put the Stars and Scrubs lineup HQ situation. That was put masterfully, I think. As far as Teague, he just really hasn't played. Like even when they've been in these types of situations before, we haven't seen him play minutes in like into the mid 20s or the high 20s. I think he's like kind of has been. We haven't seen him play more than 22 minutes in a game since the opening night. So it's just kind of we haven't really seen it. So it's kind of tough for us to project that. In terms of Pritchard, it does seem like he's going to continue to be out for tonight. So he's still out tonight. So. Yeah, it's, until we see Teague do it, even in these situations, we really haven't seen him do it yet. So they just kind of seem to be content with Tatum and Brown running the show. And they don't really necessarily need that extra ball handler there. So until I see Teague do it, or, we have real good reason to believe that he's going to play more than that, then, that's just kind of where he's landing for now.
All right, I got one more, and then if you guys got anything else, we'll let SBK get out of here and continue with the projections. Any worry, any thought of Kawhi Leonard potentially sitting here in a back-to-back? They're going into Cleveland, a game they can probably cruise to win. Have you heard anything? Are you concerned about that? Just discuss the Kawhi situation real quick.
I am a little bit concerned about that, just given the fact that he played 39 minutes last night. And obviously, I mean, he has been playing on back-to-backs a bit recently, but it's not like we've seen it for a long period of time. So, I mean, yeah, given the matchup, the road matchup with Cleveland, and they're traveling. So I could see it. I mean, we're not really projecting it that way, obviously, for now. I guess, gun to my head, I still probably lean toward him playing, but that's definitely a great situation to watch, I think, and especially, you know, if you want to position yourself in terms of late swap to be able to capitalize on that, I think that's a pretty wise decision.
Yep, for sure. Guys, anything else for SBK?
Nope.
Oh, good talk to you, man.
All right, we got one more from the chat. We'll get just a rapid fire. Horford or Thad Young, SBK, FanDuel GPP. They want your thoughts specifically. They called you out. K-Mac LA wants to know. Who you got?
I'm going to go Thad Young, I think. I have a kind of a bad feeling that OKC is going to look bad out the gate, and then they're going to be lagging offensively all night and end up probably getting blown out. So yeah, I'm going to go Thad. I think that wants to stay close. He's been actually, I mean, his assist numbers have been crazy the last 3 games. That was one thing when I had to project last night, I looked at that situation and that kind of surprised me a little bit. So yeah, he's been kind of just a really solid across the board producer. So I think I'll go with Thad's side.
All right, you're poo-pooing on my monkey knife fight stuff we're going to talk about here, but we'll let it slide. So SBK, thank you again, buddy, for joining us, and you'll be back tomorrow, I'm assuming. So appreciate it.
Yep, great talking to you guys. See ya.
Have a good one. All right, boys. Did we need to clean up anything at the shooting guard position? I think we hit on everything, guys. Anything there do you want to add, or are we ready to move on to small forward? We kind of got to get moving here. We're falling behind a little bit.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Small forward. Chop, what do you got?
This is a loaded position right here. We're talking about Boston, Jaylen Brown, obviously a big stud tonight. I like Jaylen Brown quite a bit. But then there's opportunities to save money here, namely the one that jumped off right before the show when we got word Rudy Gay was out, along with LaMarcus Aldridge. Keldon Johnson, nice young player. He's going to get some run tonight. I like Keldon Johnson. I don't know if we hit on DeMar DeRozan. He's a shooting guard / small forward, wherever you got him at on whatever site. He's in the mix. Those 2 guys, I think, are going to be really good tonight, DeMar and Keldon Johnson. So I'm right there. I like RJ Barrett. Just anytime you get a mix of big minutes playing a team like Chicago, you should be able to capitalize a little. The price tag's not that bad. So RJ Barrett. Then, we're getting a big projection on a guy like Jayshawn Tate. I don't mind that. I don't mind playing him for cheap. I've said the Rockets are feasting on the bad teams. OKC should be bad tonight. The Rockets are they've been weird, man. The numbers out there. We heard it. Matic mentioned it yesterday, and I looked it up, and he's right. Since they traded James Harden, they've got the best defense in the NBA. It's shocking right there. So, but what that means for a guy like Tate is not only will he get run regardless with the non-blowout situation, but then if it is a blowout, they really like this young guy, so he'll get a little extra run there too. So for that price tag, he could drop you a 30, and that's more than you could ask for at this price.
All right, Noto, they're woofing you up in the chat. They like your lightly tapping the like button. So, guys, if you enjoy the show, you like what we're doing here, go ahead and hit the like button, smash it, massage it, thummy thumbs like your boy in the morning asked for, whatever you want to do. We greatly appreciate you taking a second and doing that. So, Miles Bridges was brought up. Alec Rodriguez. I thought A-Rod was in the house here for a minute. He's asking about Miles Bridges, Noto. No PJ Washington, no Rozier. We've talked about Charlotte. Do you see any of these wing guys maybe picking up some more minutes, some more production?
Yeah, if A-Rod is with us, shout out to J-Lo. Give her my
where's
best.
J-Lo? A-Rod, you sit out. Let's bring J-Lo to the chat.
Chop pretty much hit on all the plays I like at small forward. Talked about Jaylen Brown at the top, massive usage rate, like SBK mentioned when he was on with us, and going to play a ton of minutes. Pretty good matchup against the Kings. I think they are still dead last in defensive rating. Keldon Johnson makes a lot of sense once again. Which is turning into a theme. All the Spurs are underpriced, and they're going to be shorthanded as well. So I like that. I did bring up Eric Gordon a little bit ago. I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on him. And then a couple guys that nobody's going to be playing. Jimmy Butler. They have one of the highest implied totals on the board. I think their total's 11 points higher than their season average. Going up against Washington, I know, nobody really wants to play anybody from Miami because their offense is so balanced. But if you want to run it back, if you're playing Bill and Ish and you want to run it back, I think Butler's at least a little bit interesting. And then I did mention Lou Dort as a punt. I think he makes some sense as kind of a pivot off of those other OKC guys.
Yeah, I really like him. He feels like a guy that's going to do well tonight and help people win tournaments. I'm going to go that bold, just off some of that chalk. And K-Town's finest asked Derek, DK single entry. Can you see a winning lineup without some of this Oklahoma City chalk tonight? So is it possible to not have any of these guys and do well?
I mean, I suppose it's possible. You got to think at least one of them is going to get there. Maybe, Horford goes out for a big game. Darius Bazley goes off for a big game. That's probably your best route for them not to have it. Or, maybe Houston, like John mentioned, with their new and improved defense can shut this team down a little bit. But I got to think, all three of those guys are going to play close to 30 minutes. So I'd probably have at least one in each lineup.
All right, Devin, let's fire up some monkey knife fight again. Promo code Grinders to get a nice deposit bonus over there. Fun prop-based game. There's a million different ways to play it. You can play the slate as a whole. You can break each game down. And even in each game, there's 10, 20, 50 different ways that you can go about it. So let's go to you first. So what are we doing on monkey knife fight? Give the people a winner here.
All right, let me pull up what I had. So I have, obviously we're doing Morris because we never do lesses. Nobody likes to bet the unders. I got Giannis over 55.5. Minutes are trending up. I think he's played at least 35 in 5 of the last 6 games. And then I got Luka Doncic. He's been quiet recently, but I kind of like him and Trae Young going at it. The 2 best draft picks from 2018, squaring off. So over 52.5 for Luka.
All right, Chop, let's get to you. What are we doing on monkey knife fight tonight?
I'm going to the Boston-Sacramento game, and I'm going with some fantasy points, more or less fantasy points here. I'm going Tatum over 47.5. Seems like a pretty easy number for him in this spot with Kemba out and Sacramento's bad defense. He should be able to get there. Fox, I'm a little less confident in, but I like it nonetheless. Boston's on the second game of a back-to-back. No Marcus Smart. That's a defensive-minded guard right there that should – not having him in there should help out Fox. So I like the over 42.5 there. So over 47.5, over 42.5 on those 2 players.
All right, I'm going to bring an under here to the table. We got to balance out all these overs. So I'm going to go under on Christian Wood. And I know John Wall is out. I know they're going to need him too. And we're talking fantasy points here, 45.5. And he's been pretty good. He's been close to that number, but he's been under that number in 4 of the last 5. Now, Wall being out may push him over that number, but we got to bring at least one under to the table. And Derek poo-pooed me when I said unleashing Al Horford last week. Well, I'm going to unleash Al Horford this week, and he's going to go over that 30.5 fantasy points. So under on Christian Wood and over on Al Horford fantasy points in that Houston, Oklahoma City game. And again, brought to you by our friends over at monkeyknifefight.com. All right, guys, let's get back into it. Let's go to power forward. Derek, we'll start with you here, buddy. What do we got?
All right. A lot of good options at the position, which usually isn't the case for power forward, at least on FanDuel. I like Jason Tatum a lot. We keep talking about Boston being shorthanded, good matchup against the Kings, all that. That game basically set as a pick 'em. I don't know why, but I kind of gravitate towards those games that do have the low spreads and the high totals. You just don't have to worry about a blowout nearly as much. So I do like Tatum quite a bit. His minutes are trending upwards too. I know it's a back-to-back, but got to think he's going to play, 36, 38 minutes. You can spend up on Giannis too. I talked about taking him as my over in the monkey knife fight. 11.2. I typically wouldn't look his way, but we have so many good value plays that he's pretty easy to get up to. And then the guy I like on DraftKings, Domantas Sabonis, just continues to crush every single slate. I think his floor, he scored under 40 fantasy points 1 or 2 times in his last 10 games. So his floor is basically 5x his DraftKings salary, his DraftKings salary. And I don't mind it. So those are my options to spend up on. And for the first time walk, that's probably going to be a position that I do look to spend up on.
All right, Chop, you're woofing me in the chat here about Christian Wood. Part of it is I'm still sour that the Milwaukee Bucks let this guy get away and walk out the door. So that I have a little bit of a bias against it. But talk Christian Wood, I know that's your team. So is he going to go over that 45 fantasy points? Is that what you're telling me?
I think so. I'll also say this. I think I'm more convinced now in the NBA than ever before that you might as well not tank several years in a row to get high draft picks, because there are really good players out there on benches right now that you can bring in for a good price tag, like a Christian Wood, or if a guy took a chance on Bobby Boucher out there in Toronto, or some of these guys, like you can bring in good young talent. I don't even think you have to tank anymore. So
Fred VanVleet, undrafted, 50-some points last night.
Yeah, could have probably got him too. If you recognize that talent, you probably could have got him from Toronto early on in his career before he exploded for a real cheap price. But nonetheless, power forward is the spot where, man, sure, I like Darius Baisley. He's okay tonight and he's cheap. But I think this is where you spend up. This is where you spend your money at because just like Noto said on some of those guys, Tatum in a great spot tonight. Christian Wood, I think, is in a good spot. Sabonis is just money almost every night. And he'll be a lock button if Miles Turner gets ruled out for me. Julius Randle, high price tag, but I mean, Chicago, he's another guy just like RJ Barrett. They just play a ton of minutes out there. Like all these guys in this high range. Zion, Porzingis is actually fairly cheap considering it's a solid matchup and they got to get the ship righted in Dallas. So this is the spend up spot. Any of those guys in that high range, I think, are perfectly good.
Getting a ton of Miles Bridges questions. So I know we've kind of danced around it. Yes or no? Let's just yes or no on Miles Bridges. Chop.
I think that it makes for a fair enough cash gameplay. He's not on my GPP radar.
Derek?
Yeah, I agree with Chop. I would play him in cash. Not really a guy I look to for a ton of upside. We didn't even talk about Gordon Hayward. I think he's kind of a forgotten guy on that same team. So a lot of options there. And I agree with, Coach over here. Free Chris Boucher, Bobby Boucher.
Like he said, everyone's injured and the guy's going to play 10 minutes. You just never know. I love the player. I love the upside, but clearly they don't want to get him in there for a ton of minutes. So legit 333 asking about Thad Young. I know SBK was a fan of his. We're going to head to the center position here. Guys, more bets. Chop, have we logged any bets from the chat or we still need some more bets?
I've been tracking some bets. I got them written down, and I'll see what else they got, and we'll culminate it at the end of the show.
So keep your favorite bets coming, spreads, totals, and we'll get that at the end of the show. We'll give you our favorite bets after we clean up center. We'll finish some questions, and we're going to get out of here. So about 12, 13 minutes to go. Chop, center position tonight. We got Andre Drummond, questionable still. Hopefully we can get some news on that before we get out of here. But how's the rest of center position looking for you tonight?
Looking pretty weak, to be honest with you. You could spend up on Joel Embiid. He's an MVP candidate. He's been awesome. So if you got the money to spend on Embiid, I don't hate it because it also probably makes you a lot different in GPPs. I don't think he'll be all that popular at the price tag. So he's the spend up. You got to stay away from a guy like Drummond or Miles Turner if you have question marks going into the night tonight if they're even going to play or not. So Clint Capella's price a little too high for me. So then it dips down. After Embiid, I kind of dip down to the mid-range with a Rashawn Holmes. Love him, especially on FanDuel and Yahoo with the block/steal upside. You get more points over there for that stuff. If you're going cheap, I think there's a play to be made here with Jakob Poeltl. I almost said Jacob Poeltl.
Yeah, I was going to say the pronunciation's coming into play now.
Jakob Poeltl, man, with no Aldridge and now no Rudy Gay, there's got to be some minutes open for him. He's been pretty decent per minute in his career when given the opportunity. So I think that's okay. And I think probably the projection on Thad Young is a little light. He's been really good this year in general and lately, especially in even limited action. But I like some Thad Young too.
Big T coming through with the OKC money line hammer drop plus 225. I like that. So I'll see if that makes it onto the list. Derek, center position tonight. We got Embiid on the high end, like Chop mentioned. I know Cody Zeller's been asked a few times. Jakob Poeltl, is that the pivot off of Zeller? Who else are you looking at center tonight?
Yeah, I think Poeltl is interesting. My alma mater, went to University of Utah, so always has a soft spot in my heart there. But yeah, if Chop's in charge of the bets, no way that OKC money line's getting involved for the chat. I kind of like that too. That must mean Lou Dort's going for 50. Anyway,
I hope so.
Back to the top. Embiid's probably the best spend. On DraftKings, I'm just going to play Sabonis. I think Chop summed it up perfectly in saying that the position is weak. This is typically the one that I struggle with the most because I want to play 5 centers, but that's just not the case tonight. So DraftKings, I'll probably just end up playing Sabonis over there. And then on FanDuel, yeah, it's pretty ugly. I mean, getting a lot of Thad Young questions. I don't know if I'm really buying it. I know they're shorthanded. No Wendell Carter, no Otto Porter, so I get it. This numbers scare me a little bit. Then a guy like Cody Zeller, I mean, he's been in the league forever, and then all of a sudden just has this massive 5-game stretch. I don't know. I have a hard time believing in it. I know his permanent numbers have always been decent, but it does scare me a little bit going up against Embiid, pick up 2 fouls, and he could be in trouble the rest of the night.
All right. Either of you guys use a lot of like total ownership when you're building your lineups. Derek, wait, Alex Sante, again, a friend of the show, asked about total ownership tonight on FanDuel. Is there a number that you ever set in lineup HQ when you're building your tournament, or probably a tournament question for you? I know Derek, a one lineup kind of guy, so maybe not as much for him. Do you ever utilize that number and it's probably not always the same number if you use it at all? Any thoughts there real quick?
I don't use it. I look at the ownership numbers and, I try to evaluate whether a guy is really worth that ownership. We already mentioned, like last night, this massive number on the Eric Pascal in the late game, massive number. And you're looking like, man, he's not even projected for around 20 fantasy points. How is it that big of a number? Well, that's a great fade, and it ended up being a really good fade considering you only put up 4 fantasy. So you kind of weigh in the upside of a guy as an individual, but not in my lineup as a whole. I don't look at it like that.
All right, Derek, they want to know what the hell a Ute is in chat. So you're the Utah Ute. Can you give us some intel on what the hell a Ute is?
I believe it's an Indian.
Okay.
Yeah, so who knows? The police might be coming for us next after having to change Washington's football.
Now I'm going to be, don't come after me now. I didn't know what a Ute was. Now I learned. Hey, I got a lot of respect for the Utes out there. So let's get some spread picks. Let's get some of our favorite bets in here. Chop is logging your bets, so last chance to get those in, and then we'll take some questions leading into crunch time here. So Chop, let's go to you, buddy. We'll take a look at the leaderboard here momentarily. What are some of your favorite bets tonight?
For me, these are the 3 I'm going with. This is a tough one, but I'm going Houston minus the 7 just because of everything I've said in this. I think Oklahoma City's weak, and Houston can dispose of weak teams. We'll see how they do against good teams, but they've been smashing weak teams. So Houston minus the 7 for me. Over on the Sacramento-Boston game, everything I've done in my research leads me to a lot of fantasy players in this game. So why not take the over? That's the way that usually works. So give me over 225 Sacramento-Boston. And one more over just because that third one was tough, man, to figure out. But I really like the offensive efficiency of both of these teams, Milwaukee and Indiana. And so, and the pace should be okay. So I'm going over the 233.5 on Milwaukee and Indiana.
All right, Chop, you went 2-1 last week, bringing your season total to 8-4. So killing it so far.
I'm woofing.
You're woofing it. That's right. Noto also 2-1 last week. That brought you to even on the season, 6-6. What do we got here for tonight?
All right, I'm going to go. We talked about Houston's defense a lot, and hey, they're missing John Wall, and on the other side, they're missing SGA. So give me the under in the Houston OKC game. I like Dallas. They've lost 6 in a row. I don't think they're getting a lot of respect in the betting market. I think they're a much better team than the Hawks, so give me them -1.5. And then Miami, I got this one late. You could have got it earlier in the day before the Westbrook news, but Miami -9.5. Washington has lost by double-digit spreads in 6 of the last 7 games. They haven't even been close, so give me Miami at home.
All right, and chat, you need to pick it up here. 1-2 last week. You guys are not woofing here. 6-6 on the season. You guys are tied with Derek. Like I said, I'm bringing a 6-pack to the table here. I got to make up for that tooth debacle. So 6-3 coming into these picks. So I'm just going to rattle them off here. Some over-unders, some spreads. I'm going under in the Dallas-Atlanta game. Just 2 teams not playing the style of offense that they were last season. So I'm going to go under 222.5 there. Also under in the Houston-Oklahoma City game. Missing a lot of pieces, and we talked about how Houston playing better defensively, under 222 there. And I'm going to go over in Phoenix, New Orleans, 2 teams that I do think playing a ton of offense, especially New Orleans, over 222.5 spread picks. I like Sacramento here tonight. I don't mind the money line, but I'll take the +1.5. I agree with Chop on Houston. I saw the line at -7.5, but if I can get that Chop line of -7, I'll take it. And I'm going to go Clippers -9. I think they roll this Cleveland team, especially if Andre Drummond is out of that lineup. So 6 picks for me to make up for the 3 that I lost, and we'll update next week how everyone's doing. So guys, any final thoughts on the slate, on the bets, before we get into some questions to finish this out here? Chop, anything we want to wrap things up with? Chop, you're on mute, brother.
I know. I
The
caught it. I got my dad calling on one line. I'm trying to keep track of bets here. Here's what I need to get the chat's picks out. Let's put these on record while we're here, and we got a minute here.
All right.
So here's what I came up with. Well, first of all, some guy said Houston -6 in the chat. Well, we're going to exclude that one because you're trying to get a really cheap line. My line was cheap, but -6, you're taking advantage. So we're going to go the opposite. Big T said Oklahoma City money line. Then we had some other guys follow him and say Oklahoma City. So let's give them Oklahoma City plus the 7. We'll give them Oklahoma City plus the 7. So we got that one. I saw a lot of Celtics. Now I see Celtics -1. Earlier it was Celtics -2. We're going Boston. We'll give them Boston -2. Can't have the -1. You can have the -2. Well, Beer took it at 1.5. Let's give them 1.5. We'll split the difference. We'll give them Boston. We'll give them Oklahoma City. And let's give them, I just saw one a minute ago, looked pretty good. Let's give them the Pacers. Let's give them the Pacers tonight.
Oh, yeah. Somebody even apologized betting against my Bucks. I don't mind the Pacers. That's a lot of points there in that game. And Coach with the line of the night, -120 on Dean calling in on the house phone here to make his pick. So we'll lock that one in as well. So thoughts on Jason Collins, Sonia Wilson, Derek, any thoughts there?
Jason Collins, is that like the twins?
John, oh yeah, that was the Stanford twins, or John Collins, right? John Collins.
Now that Gallinari's back, and Capella just takes so much of his rebounding upside. And I know we've learned that woofing is good on this show. What about Total Chicken Boys? That doesn't sound like a compliment to me.
No, not at all. So we'll have to get some clarifications. Let us know. Chop, quick question: FanDuel tournament, Chris Paul, yes or no?
Man, it's been rough for me to play him this year. I don't think I need to go there tonight. I just don't see the massive upside in tournaments for CP3.
Total chicken boy. Yeah, now I'm seeing that, Derek. Yeah, I don't know. So this guy's torn. He's one lineup. So Derek, we're gonna send this one to you. He's torn between Brown and Baisley or Dort and Tatum on FanDuel. What do you think?
I mean, I think I mentioned Dort about 30 times a night, so I will go with Dort and Tatum, and I'll probably roll out those two guys in my main lineup as well.
All right, Chop, what about Marvin Bagley? I know we brought up Rashawn Holmes. We know that he tends to get in foul trouble. Does that lead you to playing some Marvin Bagley tonight?
No, I'm not going to play Marvin Bagley, but I need Herbert to clarify what a total chicken boy is, please.
Yeah, Herbert, come on back. We got to know these things. So number one lock. Who's got a lock button play between the 6 and 8K range on DraftKings? Anybody got one fired up here?
Mar DeRozan.
DeRozan. There you go. Chop from Matthew Abrams in the chat. Tyler Hero on FanDuel and GPP. Yes or no?
He didn't make my cut, so no.
Did not make the cut. Miles Turner available to play. That news is coming in. Thank you to our boy Don Yeezy. So any other questions here? What's the lean on Drummond? Do we think he plays or not? Derek, I know you asked SBK. You guys got any thoughts on that from Christopher Bonini?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of agree with SBK. Doesn't seem like they're itching to get him back in the lineup. So that'll definitely change some things. It'll make center a little bit more interesting if we can get Jared Allen in there.
James Smith missed out on centers. Just hit that rewind, brother. We'll get our center talk there and get that out of the way. Dante DiVincenzo, tournament play on FanDuel, yes or no, Chop?
Not for me, no.
What about Javonte Graham, Derek? Boston, FanDuel, GPP.
I just think there's too many good value plays to go that deep. If you're playing the late slate, go for it.
And Will Fritz, Chop, you can rehash your Malik Monk thoughts here for Will Fritz. Thoughts there on DraftKings.
He's cheap enough that you never know if they're trying to feature him. He could have a big upside game. So I don't think he's safe for cash, but in tournaments, absolutely, why not?
All right, that's going to do it, guys. Always fun doing this show. Chat, good work with the questions. Good work with the spread picks. Guys, any quick final thoughts for the people before we get out of here? Noto.
No, best of luck. What's your favorite Super Bowl bet, you two?
That's it. Chop, any final thoughts?
Give me Kansas City -3.
Yes, sir. And I did a 6-pack video with some of my favorite prop bets. Go check that out. Kansas City is in there as well. Thank you to Devin for producing Crunch Time, following us for Head Shopper, for Notorious, I am Bear saying salut, guys. Thank you again for hanging out with the OGs. Good luck tonight. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll see you next week at 5:30 here on Grinders Live. Peace.